I first became a fan of Status Quo in the late 90s, around 1997, 98, after the release of their compilation album, Whatever You Want, the very best of Status Quo. And over the last 25 plus years, I have sought out pretty much the entire Quo catalogue. Every album, every live album, every single. I've heard most of it. And these days, that comes in great handy with doing the Quo-Cast. But along the way, on that journey, watching, listening to all this stuff, you discover that there is an entire world of Quo-inspired bands. Bands that take their influence from Status Quo and take it off into different directions, depending on which era it is they're trying to do. I'm not necessarily talking about just tribute bands. I'm also referring to bands who write original material with Quo at the back or sometimes at the front of their minds. What I thought I would do, and I hope this to be the start of a new playlist, actually, is tell you about 3 albums from Quo-inspired bands that I want to recommend to you. Now, it's worth noting that these are in no particular order of preference. I'm not ranking or rating them in any way. They're just 3 albums I want to tell you about. And I'm obviously going to have missed some bands, some albums. I can't have heard everything there is out there, which is why I want you, the viewer, to help. So if you know of any band or album I should listen to that is Quo-inspired, that predominantly writes and records original material, then please do let me know in the comments below. And let's start with the first one. The first album that I would like to feature here is Ian Hill's Keep On Rockin' On, first released in 2011. Now, Ian Hill, not that one, is predominantly known, I think, in the Quo community for being the frontman of Status Quo, a Status Quo tribute band of many years. And in the late 2000s, early 2010s, he set about recording an album that could have been a Status Quo record, influenced wholly by their catalogue. But the great thing about this is it doesn't have one era in mind or a couple of eras. It is the entire spectrum of Quo, from the early 70s in Spin the Wheel to your 4,500 times style long song in How Many Times, with that beautiful kind of melodic folky thing in the middle. Most of the instruments on this album are played by Ian, with Dave from Status Quo also contributing drums on the record. And I think that really does give it kind of an extra dimension, because if you've been playing Quo's music for a long time, you obviously know all the little intricacies, and that actually, contrary to some opinion, not all Quo songs sound the same. What I really like about this is it's varied. It showcases all the different styles. His singing style kind of goes from occasionally Rick Parfitt-esque to the more kind of commercial sounding Rossi side of things, with other bits and pieces in between. There's fast songs, there's sort of mid-tempo songs, something like Precious, for example. The guitar sound on that is exceptional. The attention to detail, as well as not just being a tribute to the Quo, but also something that's very personal to Ian as well, and that he put a lot of himself into that. He's due to perform certainly some of the tracks on the album, if not the entire album, at the Scottish Quo Convention later this year. I look forward to seeing footage from that and hearing all about it if I'm unable to go. This is an album that I know many people really appreciate. It's still available out there via Bandcamp and other websites as well. I will leave the details on how you can get hold of this album in the description below. So the next album that I would like to highlight was first released in 2005. It's by Norwegian band Hercules, and it's called License to Rock. Now, this was really difficult because Hercules are an amazing boogie / classic rock band that definitely have Quo at the core of their sound, along with a lot of other influences. And pretty much every album in their discography is worth listening to. But I pick License to Rock with its guitar-laden cover with that lightning strike in this video, because it's the first album from them I remember listening to via Spotify. You've got some incredible songs on here of the boogie variety. Rat Race was actually the first song from them I heard because it was a free download on a website somewhere back in the late 2000s, I want to say. And I remember hearing it, and it was the first time I heard a non-Quo related band playing that boogie style of music in that, with that firmly in mind. And as someone who grew up with people teasing me that Quo sounded the same, to hear another band do that was just kind of affirming in a way. Other great songs on here, all on TV. It's 4 to the floor, isn't it? It's great stuff. Really turn it up loud, but not distorted. No Reply, Shuffle Full of Boogie. I'm reading this, obviously. And Stop Messing My Heart Around as well, which is a song that if I'm feeling particularly sad or angry, I will put it on and I will air guitar, and it will make me feel so much better. I love the guy's voice in this. Certainly, I said recently in a review of their single Bite Size Blues that his vocal style is very commercial, very uplifting, and a lot of the stuff on these albums can sound basic, but in order to get a very specific sound, is quite complex in places. And I think that's the key to great boogie rock, I think, to make it sound really easy. It really isn't. They've got the feel right up there. I think certainly from listening to it, obviously they'll have other influences, but in the Quo camp, I'm getting kind of a whatever you want to 1982 vibe. It's sort of polished, but rough around the edges, which I know is certainly a favorite of a lot of people in the Quo camp. I mean, it's a favorite sound for many people. So that is Hercules, License to Rock. It's available to listen to on Spotify. All the details in the description below. Go and check it out. It's great stuff. And they're also playing at the Scottish Convention later this year. Boogie for You is the second album by BFM. I haven't heard too much about them in recent years, but I assume they've either gone on to other things or they're just taking a little break. But I first became aware of the band BFM, I assume an abbreviation for Big Fat Mama, obviously, back in 2010 when they released a video called Say To Me, which was this beautiful mid to fast tempo Quo shuffle thing, which I really liked, as well as their song Telling Me Lies as well. They put a lot of thought into the promotion of that first album. This is the second one. Boogie for You obviously being a reference to Blue for You, and the album cover reminds me very much stylistically, certainly an image of like ZZ Top and other rock covers. I do like the drawing on the front of their great artwork, very striking. As you can expect from an album called Boogie for You, there are a lot of tracks on here which are just pure boogie rock. Some with different flavors, obviously, but things like Lonesome Cowboy, Lover Boy, you know, Slow Down. And I love the way that they have a track on here, Can't She Stay, which the melody is always in my head. And I love kind of sitting down with guitar and playing it slowly and trying to reinvent it in different ways. And I like that this band have gone kind of all out with the boogie theme. And then they've got this track on there that just kind of slows it down. And that's what happens with the best of Quo albums, I think. People remember like the chugging rhythm of like Don't Waste My Time, but they might forget that there's like slow to mid-tempo ballads like All the Reasons and A Year, you know, or Unspoken Words. So to have something like Can't She Stay, which is kind of a pleasing pop rock, you know, thing, is very, very good. You know, I think that's how I can describe it. There is also a track on here called Frantic 4, which around the time this album was released, we'd had the Frantic 4 reunion tour, and then they were going out again. It's exactly what you would expect. It's their experience of going to see the Frantic 4 in concert, talking about how the whole set is great and all the bits and pieces, and we wanted more, the Frantic 4. It's a great tribute that actually I think should be heard by more Quo fans. The album, I actually reviewed this album back in the day, and I remember really loving it. And they did record several EPs and 2 or 3 albums. I think the last album was Electric Sunshine, which it's been a while since I heard the stuff. But the thing about BFM was they had that Quo influence, very much like Hercules, but you could hear other things in there too. Bits of Queen, bits of Deep Purple, you know, other kind of classic rock influences. And as with all of the albums that I've talked about, they've all kind of nailed it. That I remember when I first started playing guitar, your first instinct is to go, I want to play like Rick Parfitt. Let's turn the drive and the gain right up, right? And do Caroline. And what you realize when you're just playing standard Quo shuffly stuff, the guitar itself is actually pretty clean. It isn't like Motorhead levels of distortion. It's actually really clean. It's the combination of instruments together which create that almost like natural harmonic distortion in the entire thing. There are moments, obviously, like Caroline, when they go a bit over, but in the main, most of the albums that I hear and have recommended here have that trait to them where they haven't gone overboard. Some may, you know, insert a little bit of extra distortion, but I think that's definitely a character of Quo's music that gets picked up quite a lot. But we also have to take into account that there's so many other influences at play too. You know, that's the thing. Boogie for You is still available, and it's on Bandcamp, it's on Spotify. Go and listen to it, and the other albums as well by BFM. Again, I will leave all the details in the description below, and please do let me know if you'd like me to do this again. Other albums I should listen to that you would like my opinion on, and obviously spread the word about. Are you in a band that plays predominantly original Quo-inspired boogie rock, classic rock? If you've got a bit of Quo in your musical genes, then please do get in contact. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Please do rate, comment, and subscribe, because the more subscribers we get, the more I can do this and spread the word about the mighty Quo.